In today's fast-paced world, you can't afford to be complacent. You have to stay sharp, protect your interests, and know precisely when to make your move. I wasn't snooping, I swear. One morning, I just wanted to check a shipping confirmation on my husband's laptop. He had left it open on the kitchen table. I clicked the browser, and before I could even type, an email thread popped up. The subject line read, "Divorce strategy." I froze. For a moment, I thought maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe it was just spam, a bad joke, or a mistake. But then I saw my name, bold and clear, and one sentence stood out like a warning flare. "She'll never see it coming." At first, I couldn't move. I just stared at the screen, my heart pounding, my hands shaking. I clicked through the emails. There were messages between Mark and a divorce lawyer. They had been talking for weeks. He was planning everything behind my back. He wanted to file first, hide assets, and twist things, so I looked like the villain. He had plans to say I was unstable, that I didn't contribute to the marriage, and that he deserved more than half. He even mentioned trying to cut me off from our accounts before I could react. I felt like I couldn't breathe. This was the man I trusted, the man I built a life with. We had dinner together just the night before. He kissed me goodbye every morning. But maybe I should have known. Maybe all the warning signs had been there, hiding in plain sight. For years, Mark and I had tried to have a child. Doctor visits, endless tests, hormone injections, whispered prayers in the dark. We had done it all. Each month I hoped, and each month I was left broken by disappointment. I carried the weight of empty cradles and nursery dreams that never came true. Mark would smile and tell me it didn't matter, that we still had each other. But I could feel the distance growing. And then came the late nights. The business trips that didn't quite add up. The new cologne he didn't wear for me. I tried to convince myself I was imagining it, until one afternoon I spotted him across the street from a cafe in Abuja. He wasn't alone. A younger woman, long legs, smooth skin, and a laugh that seemed to echo too loudly. He touched her hand across the table, leaned in too close. I stood frozen on the other side of the road, groceries digging into my palms, my heart splitting silently in my chest. That was the day I knew Mark wasn't just slipping away from me. He had already left. But I stayed, not because I was blind, but because I still believed in the vows I made. Because I thought maybe if I loved harder, prayed more, and waited longer, things could heal. Clearly, I was wrong. That morning at the laptop, as I scrolled through his cold, calculated betrayal, I realized something with brutal clarity. Mark hadn't just given up on me. He was setting out to destroy me. I never saw it coming, but I wasn't going to fall apart. I took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. I quickly took screenshots of every email. I backed up the files and sent them to a private email I used only for emergencies. Then I closed everything as if I had never seen it. Mark thought I was clueless. He thought I was soft, someone who would fall to pieces and do whatever he said. He thought I was just a wife who needed him. He had no idea who I really was. That evening, when he came home, I smiled. I made his favorite dinner. I listened to his day like nothing had changed. I nodded. I laughed. I kissed him goodnight. But in my mind, something had shifted forever. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was focused. He didn't know I had seen everything. He didn't know I had proof. And he definitely didn't know that while he had been planning behind my back, I was now planning behind his. He went to sleep thinking he was in control, but that night, as he snored beside me, I opened my laptop in the dark and started a new folder. I named it Freedom. Inside it, I placed every screenshot, every note, and every detail I would need. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to win quietly, smartly, and on my terms. The glow of the laptop screen was the only light in the room. Mark's snores rumbled beside me, steady and oblivious, while my fingers moved quickly, organizing, cataloging, planning. Every screenshot, every financial note, every hidden clue about what he was plotting, I stored them carefully in that new folder. Freedom. The word alone steadied my breathing. For years, I had begged the universe for a different kind of freedom. The freedom to be called mother. The freedom to hold a child in my arms. We had tried for so long. Each cycle of hope and heartbreak carved invisible scars inside me. I sat in hospital waiting rooms while Mark scrolled on his phone, pretending patience. I endured hormones that changed my body and bruised my spirit, while he assured me it wasn't my fault. But then, after the appointments and the tears, after the prayers whispered into pillows, I noticed how he started to drift. His patience turned into distance. His arms, once eager to comfort, became rigid and absent. And then, the cruelest twist of all the mistress. I never confronted him about her, not once, because the moment I saw them together at that cafe, I knew I had lost the man I thought I married. He could play the doting husband in public, but behind closed doors, he was someone else entirely. Now, seeing his plans laid bare on the laptop, I understood that his betrayal wasn't weakness, it was war. So I prepared for battle. The next morning, I made breakfast as usual. Fried plantain, eggs, coffee, just the way he liked it. He smiled, kissed my cheek, and thanked me as if the night before I hadn't uncovered his soul's darkest plot. While he went to work, I began my first set of moves. I reviewed every joint account, drawing up lists of what belonged to me and what didn't. I combed through property titles, scanned trust documents, and quietly tested passwords I had long ago memorized. Some things were easy to move, others more complicated, but nothing was impossible. I wasn't in a rush. I had patience. I had already endured years of waiting for something as elusive as motherhood. If I could survive that pain, I could survive this war. Still, something inside me burned hotter each day. It wasn't just about money or reputation anymore. It was about dignity. About making sure that the man who mocked my pain and betrayed my trust would never again hold power over me. That was when I decided to plant the camera. It was small, almost invisible, with no blinking light to betray it. I placed it behind a row of books in his home office. He never read much anyway. The books were more decoration than knowledge. He would never notice. At first, the recordings were uneventful. He typed, answered calls, paced the room. But then, one evening, as I sat in the living room with headphones on, the feed changed everything. Mark wasn't alone. His friend Derek was there. They shut the door, poured drinks, and sat laughing like men with nothing to lose. I didn't expect much until I heard my name. Mark lifted his glass and said, almost proudly, "I'm going to gut her clean in court." Derek chuckled, swirling his drink. "You sure she won't fight back?" Mark smirked. "She's clueless. My lawyer's setting everything up. We're going to leak fake proof that she cheated. Texts, pictures, everything. Once the media gets it, she won't stand a chance. She'll break down before we even step into court." For a moment, my hands went cold. This wasn't divorce, this was destruction. He wasn't just leaving me, he was trying to erase me. But I didn't cry. I didn't storm into the office and expose my knowledge. I just listened. Every second of that recording became another weapon in my arsenal. That night, while he snored again beside me, I replayed his words in my head. Got her clean, fake proof, clueless. He thought I was nothing but a barren wife, fragile and weak, someone to be discarded without consequence. He had no idea I had already begun dismantling the empire he thought we shared. The following morning, my quiet urgency sharpened. My first call was to Sarah, my accountant. Sarah, I whispered into the phone, careful not to make it traceable from the house line. I need a full audit of everything in my name, personal and business, every joint account, every property, every investment. I need it on my desk by tomorrow morning. Sarah didn't even flinch. She had worked with me long enough to know my voice only carried urgency when the stakes were high. Consider it done. Next, I called Alan, my corporate lawyer. Alan, we're initiating a full-scale asset protection plan. I want liquid assets moved into private, secure trusts. Joint accounts should be emptied quietly. And I want to make some of our shared properties less accessible. Get your best people on it now. Alan's voice was calm but firm. Understood. We'll draft everything immediately. Finally, I dialed Rachel, my old friend, the one who specialized in asset protection for high-stakes divorces. Rachel, I need a full workup on Mark, his lawyer, and his friend Derek. Every financial dealing, every whisper of corruption, and prepare a PR shield. He's planning to leak fabricated stories of infidelity to ruin me. Rachel's pause was brief, but her words were steady. He's going scorched earth, but if he thinks you're defenseless, he's already lost. We'll be a ghost. He'll never see us. By the end of that week, the transformation had begun. Millions moved quietly into encrypted trusts, properties restructured under shell companies he couldn't touch. Business income streams redirected into accounts with new names and invisible trails. Mark came home each evening, kissed me, and told me about his day, never realizing that with each passing moment, his grip on me was slipping into nothing. And all the while, the camera fed me more. One night, I listened as he and his lawyer Frank sat smugly in that office. "She's a shell of a woman," Frank sneered. "She won't know what hit her. We'll start leaking the fake evidence as soon as you file. Gossip blogs, tabloids, she'll crumble. By the time we're in court, she'll settle just to make it stop." Mark laughed. "Perfect. She'll finally know what it feels like to fail." Those words stung not because they were true, but because they revealed how deeply he underestimated me. He thought my empty womb defined me. He thought my silence meant weakness, but silence was my sharpest weapon. I smiled to myself as I copied the recordings, storing them safely away. If Mark thought I was clueless, he was in for the surprise of his life. The day Mark planned to file for divorce, he was unusually cheerful. He hummed as he shaved, wore his favorite navy suit, and kissed me with a smug smile before leaving the house. "I've got an important meeting today," he said casually, buttoning his cufflinks. "Don't wait up, I might be late." If he noticed the flicker of irony in my smile, he ignored it. He thought he was marching into victory, carrying the confidence of a man certain of his triumph. But I knew the truth. He was walking straight into a trap of his own making. Because while he was planning to ambush me, I had already filed the day before. My lawyers had everything ready, a thick stack of documents, the divorce petition, a temporary restraining order, and most damning of all, the hidden camera recordings. The process server was already waiting outside his lawyer's office, ready to hand Mark his surprise. By the time he stepped through those glass doors, papers in hand, I was already miles ahead. The morning before, I had moved like a ghost in my own home. Mark thought I was busy with errands, but in reality, I was in Alan's office, signing papers with a calm hand and steady gaze. Each signature was a weapon, each clause a shield. Alan leaned back once the ink dried. He'll never recover from this. You've cut off his access to accounts. You've secured the properties and these recordings. He tapped the file. They'll burn him in court. I said nothing. I didn't feel like celebrating. Not yet. Because this wasn't about winning a legal battle. It was about proving something deeper, that I was never the fragile woman he imagined. That years of trying for a child, years of disappointment had not broken me. They had forged me. When the call came from my investigator that morning, I almost smiled. He's been served, the voice said simply. Through the hidden camera I had left running, I saw Mark's reaction. He sat in his lawyer's office, unfolding the papers with growing confusion. His eyebrows knitted, his jaw tightened. Then his face turned pale as he read the words, "Filed by your name." The smugness drained from him. He slammed the papers on the desk, rage flaring in his eyes. "What the hell is this?" he barked at Frank. But Frank was staring too, his lips pressed into a thin line. "She beat us to it." Mark grabbed his phone, stabbing at the screen. But he didn't know my number had already been changed. His calls went nowhere. His access to joint accounts had been revoked, passwords reset, cards cancelled. His empire of lies crumbled in real time. Meanwhile, my team was already 3 steps ahead. Rachel had pulled together a meticulous PR strategy. Before Mark or his cronies could leak their fabricated stories, we released a statement to select outlets. Calm, factual, devastating. I have filed for divorce from my husband Mark due to infidelity and financial deceit. Evidence of his misconduct has been submitted to the court. I ask for privacy as I move forward with dignity. Attached were a few carefully chosen screenshots, emails of him discussing "gotten me clean," notes about leaking fake evidence, his smug words caught on video, just enough to prove the truth without exposing the full arsenal I had in reserve. Within hours, the story spread like wildfire. Headlines shifted. Instead of whispering about my supposed instability, the world was buzzing about Mark's betrayal. Social media turned against him. His mistress, the one I had seen across that cafe table, suddenly became less of a secret and more of a scandal. And I remained silent, letting the storm do its work. That evening, Mark came home late, his face red with fury. He slammed the door so hard the frame rattled. "Why?" he demanded, his voice shaking. "Why would you do this to me?" For a moment, I almost laughed at the hypocrisy. Why would I do this to him? As though he hadn't planned to erase me, hadn't plotted to destroy me with lies. I stayed calm. "You should sit down, Mark." But he couldn't. He paced like a caged animal, running his hands through his hair. "Do you know what you've done? You've embarrassed me. You've exposed you," I said simply. He froze, his eyes locking onto mine. For the first time in months, maybe years, I saw fear in them. "You underestimated me," I continued, my voice steady. "You thought I was blind. You thought I was weak because I couldn't give you a child. You thought a mistress could replace me. You thought fake evidence could bury me. But you forgot who I am." He swallowed hard, fists clenching at his sides. "This isn't over." "No," I agreed. "It's just beginning. But the difference is I'm already ahead." I left him standing in that room, seething, as I walked into the sanctuary of my office and locked the door. On my desk, the folder labeled Freedom sat open. Each page, each file, each recording was a reminder that while he played games of betrayal, I played the long game of survival. The court battle was swift and merciless. Mark's plan had always relied on me crumbling under pressure, but when he tried to introduce fabricated text, my lawyers countered with time-stamped evidence of his own admissions. When his mistress attempted to paint me as unhinged, recordings of Mark mocking me with Derek surfaced instead. The judge's face hardened more with every revelation. Frank, his smug lawyer, was eventually disbarred for unethical conduct. The mistress slunk away, unwilling to face cross-examination. And Mark, once so sure of his dominance, was reduced to stammering denials that fooled no one. In the end, the verdict was brutal. The majority of shared assets came to me. His accounts were frozen, his reputation shredded, his so-called strategy a public humiliation. As I walked out of that courthouse, the sun warming my face, I thought about everything I had endured. The years of waiting for a child, the quiet heartbreak of watching him drift into another woman's arms, the cold discovery of betrayal on his laptop. And I realized something. I had already been through worse pain. Nothing Mark did could match the sorrow of holding empty dreams month after month. Nothing he plotted could defeat the resilience I had built in silence. He thought he was playing chess, but I wasn't on his board. I was playing an entirely different game. I was playing for freedom. And I had already won. The silence after victory was the loudest sound I had ever heard. For months, I had lived in quiet fear, building my secret defenses, hiding behind smiles and polite nods. But now the masks were gone. The courtroom had spoken. The world had seen him for what he truly was. Mark, once the man who strutted with pride, was broken. His empire of deception had collapsed. His friends avoided him, investors pulled out of his ventures, and his mistress, so eager to bask in his attention, disappeared the moment the scandal hit the headlines. I heard whispers through the grapevine. She had returned to her old life, leaving Mark to face the wreckage alone. That was the thing about women like her. They only stayed when the glass was full. When it shattered, they cut their losses. But me? I had stayed through storms far darker, through the long nights of trying for a child, through the pills, the needles, the prayers that went unanswered. I had endured rejection from my own body, disappointment month after month. Yet I was still standing, stronger, harder, wiser. Mark had mistaken endurance for weakness, and now he was learning the difference the hard way. I remember the day I saw him again after the trial. He was sitting outside a cafe, not the same one where I had once seen him with her, but similar. His suit no longer crisp, his hair unkempt, his eyes sunken. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. For a fleeting second, I felt pity. After all, I had once loved him. I had once dreamed of carrying his child, of building a family together. But pity has no place where betrayal has already buried love. He looked up and saw me across the street. His lips parted as though he wanted to say something. Maybe an apology, maybe an accusation, maybe just a plea for what we once were. I didn't stop. I didn't wave. I didn't give him even the satisfaction of acknowledgement. I walked past, my head high, the weight of freedom steady on my shoulders. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? Do well to let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more interesting stories. Stay blessed.